Hello, darkness, my old friend. What's going on, everybody? It's the Dismal Collective here. And I'm going to make a little video today for you all lamenting about my status as a victim. My status as a life loser. It's going to be a woe is me tale. The way that I'm perceived and treated by my family, treated by my online acquaintances, and we're just going to jump straight into this one. I'm going to pretty much tell you some tales and stories about what happened to me earlier this week and earlier today, and then I'm going to try to segue into a little bit of a philosophical analysis of it and close out on that note. So, I got a marriage license today. I've never been officially married. I'm planning on getting officially married because it's going to be necessary in order for me to take a trip to Asia. That's, coming up very quickly. And I agreed to it pretty much on very short terms because that's been the story of my life. I'm told what I'm going to do. And if I don't go with it, then I just get left behind. And so people kind of leverage the fact that I'm scared of loneliness. I'm scared of abandonment. I'm not mentally strong enough to be alone. Either that or they just simply don't care if I come or not. So I'm always the guy that's like, a little puppy dog chasing behind his owner, or I'm like that kid that gets left at the mall. I always have this memory when I was very young of my father. He took me to a shopping mall, one that no longer exists anymore. It's kind of a sign of the times. And I must have turned around to look at something for a minute and maybe, doing a little bit of window shopping. And he hid behind a big pole, maybe 10, 15 feet away. And I turned around to find that he was gone, and I was standing there alone. And it's very fuzzy. I was very young. I'm not sure if I went up and asked somebody, have you seen my dad? I can't find my dad. Or if maybe I'm just kind of having a false memory of that aspect of it. But I pretty much was like, I remember the feeling, not the details, but the feeling of just being like totally deserted and, being surrounded by like people who don't know me. They don't care about me. And then my dad, he kind of jumped out from behind the pole and was like, hey, I'm right here. Joke's on you. And I didn't find it funny. I think I probably tried punching him or yelling at him. I was very distraught over this, and I still remember that feeling. It always like comes back to me with my family like this today. Whether it's during a fight, after a fight, or a disagreement, or when my family tell me what they really feel about me, or they disregard my concerns, even though my concerns are very well-meaning. They come from a very good place. They're just neglected and ignored regardless. So, even under the influence of any kind of mind-altering substances that I've taken, probably after the age of 20, that same feeling always kind of wells back up in me, where I'm like, I can see that my family is a formality. It's a facade. Nobody really wants it. They just don't know what else they would be doing. And so they just it's just where the chips happen to fall. It's like incidental that we're all still cohabitating and talking to one another. And so that's not even the purpose of this video. So we're planning this trip, which is going to require me to get married. And, post-COVID, plane tickets are incredibly expensive, and I don't make very much money. I work, I pretty much, I'm going to be honest, I make about 250 to 300 bucks a week at my job. I only work 3 hours here, 6 hours there. Very seldom do I ever work a shift in excess of like 6, 7 hours. And I never turn down hours. There's times where I've worked until 2:30 a.m. and then I've been back into work to open at 6:30 a.m. Which, I mean, I live a few minutes away from my job, thankfully, so I can kind of just like drive straight home, crawl into bed, and catch a nice nap. But it catches up to you, and it's more the thought behind it than like, it's more that I'm trying. That's what I expect my family to see, and of course they don't. They don't consider that. So, we went out to get some passport photos taken of the baby and everything, like trying to really crunch this paperwork to apply in very short order, like it's very rushed. Um, so we're there, and I says, you know, I have some money, but it's not much, but it's enough. But we have to be frugal. We have to be um, very budgeted and very, tight until we go there in order to swing this. And, she said, yeah, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, yeah, I hear you. All of this. And then we go over to Costco. And it was just supposed to be that we were going in for a case of water and a case of like carbonated, like soda water, which is what I drink when I'm fasting. And like I've said to you guys, I'm doing like alternate day fasting where I only eat, every other day, which works out to be every like 36 hours because I include 2 sleeps. So I'm kind of doing my part there. Ideally, that would add up to a lot of money. All the money saved from not stuffing my face every single day, but now only every other day. I go on and on about like the health benefits of that. But there's a lot of financial benefits to it too, which is more so the main reason I'm doing this. So, trying to really do my part to make sure that what little income I have goes as far as it can. And not for me. I mean, I don't need money. I don't give a shit about money. I don't, you buy me a book for $12 and I can read it, and, just give me internet access and a place to do push-ups, and I'm pretty much like, can't imagine what I would need any more than that. So it's for other people, And she comes out with $250 worth of groceries, which wouldn't be too bad if I hadn't brought her to the Asian supermarket earlier in the week where she spent $300 also. And I says, that's not, I said earlier I make $250 a week. I make $500 a week. Sorry, I get paid. I don't know why I fudged that math, but yeah, I pretty much said, that's like a week's worth of pay for me that you just spent through there. And is it necessary? If you can justify it, fine. Like, she gets on me about buying tobacco now that I'm smoking again. I spend $50 a week on pipe tobacco. And I only smoke, 2 bowls a day. So it goes pretty far. And I get a lot out of it, like mentally, spiritually. It's a real big, it's something that I look forward to. It's something that has actually helped me lose a lot of weight and look and feel a lot better. It's helped me get rid of a lot of pain and inflammation in my body. Makes fasting much easier. Improves sleep quality, things like this, right? So I can justify it, but apparently I can't. So one of the things that she comes out with is 2 bottles of probiotic and 2 big bottles of peanut butter. And together, these 4 items, they cost probably $75, $70, something like that. And I says, I don't really need this. I don't need these probiotics. I've never taken fucking probiotics. Supplements are fake. They don't do anything. They're just placebos. I've tried every supplement in existence, and none of them have ever made any noticeable difference in me. And I said, I appreciate the thoughtfulness of this, but um I thought we just talked about not really buying anything that was non-essential until we take this trip. You don't earn any money, and I don't have many hours at my job, and so like I've got to really worry about this. And she just screamed on me. I tried very rationally and like very calmly to explain, like, I understand the logic that buying things in bulk, you save money. This is a wholesale discount. But I also, at the same time, I can't afford to have $100 tied up in fucking peanut butter. You know what I mean? Like, I need like a higher time preference rate. I need cash in hand. I don't have the money to invest in things just because, I'll be saving like $8 3 months from now. I can't do that. That's not, I need my money, right? I'm too poor to not have it on hand. And so she just freaked and tore into me, okay, I'm going to cancel the whole trip. We're not going, blah, 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 blah. You always do this. I don't want to fucking fight with you. Just take me home. Fucking do your thing. Screaming on me, tearing into me, right? And so I get home and I don't know what else to do. Basically, my only like recourse is to complain to somebody else. Like, she just basically will bury her head and scream at me. So there's no getting through there. So I either have to come on YouTube, as I'm doing now, or I have to try to talk to my parents, who are also brick walls in their own way. I don't know who else to. I'm going to go mental if I can't. If I can't kind of like trauma dump on somebody somewhere, I'm going to fucking blow my brains out. I'm actually going to blow my fucking brains out. So, I come home, my parents are in the kitchen, my girlfriend just like fucks off in the house or whatever. And so I'm talking to them and I'm like, just kind of telling them, this happened. And I feel like I don't get any respect here. Like, this person doesn't respect me. And my mom goes, well, you guys need to talk about it. And I'm like, yeah, but it's paradoxical to give that prescription, because I'm telling you the problem is that we don't communicate. And then the prescription is to talk about how you don't communicate or whatever. Obviously, that's a fucking non-starter, right? That's not a non-fucking starter. And so I go, my parents never take sides. They never take sides at all between like me and my wife. Even I can understand not being like biased or not wanting to jump in, and we're adults, they stay out of it. But there's instances where I'm like straight out getting abused, getting just treated like this fucking shit on the shoe of the earth, just the scum of fucking reality. And they'll sit right there and just quietly, click, click on their phone or their computer like fucking zombies while this is happening. And then I says, it says to my mom, you did the same thing with me and my brother when we fell out. He is a fucking drunk loser, and he was taking it out on me, and he brought me across the country to live in his house only so that he could rug pull me and then get drunk off his fucking tit and bring up stuff I did when I was 15 and how that caused him to be the recluse that he is today, and why he never is, able to go out and enjoy himself was because of me. And he did that for 21 days straight. And I was talking to my mother on the phone, from across the country this whole time, saying, your son, my brother, is like, he's fucking way out of line with what he's doing here to me, and this is crazy. I'm not even defending myself. I'm just taking it, but I don't know how long I can tolerate it and everything. And she's, well. And she never picked a side in it. She never spoke up. And I told her, I kind of resent you for that. I resent that you didn't get involved. And she goes on this whole tangent about, well, what am I supposed to do? Just say you're right and he's wrong? Like, no understanding of how mediation is supposed to work, right? How you can mediate a dispute without necessarily just helping one guy kick the other guy's ass. And I'm explaining, you come out, you ask questions. Well, did you talk to him? Well, did he do this? Well, why did you do that? Just, you ask a series of questions, like the Socratic method, and hopefully the truth reveals itself. If you ask the right line of questions, it becomes obvious what the problem was. And so my father's sitting there, and eventually he chimes in. My mother she will not talk about anything real. She wants to talk about food, the weather, Judge Judy, and that's pretty much it. How was work? The minute anything like familial, the minute anything, she's instantly saying, well, we're not capable. You should talk to a professional. You guys should hire some random stranger and pay them $80 an hour because, we're not professionals. We don't know how to deal with this. No instinct, no like mothering instinct whatsoever. She just shuts down. I don't want to talk about this. Okay. Like that, right? So finally my dad gets involved, and when like Papa Dismal speaks up, it's, he's heard enough. He doesn't usually even get involved unless the conversation's gone on for a good hour. And he says, basically he told me the truth, and he said, the reason we don't get involved, and we never got involved between you and your brother, was because, what are we supposed to do? Get involved and tell him he was out of line and then turn around and risk losing our connection with him? And he said, then he applied it to my relationship with my girlfriend too. He says, we all live under the same roof, and if we were to just come out and like take your side against hers, we risk losing access to the grandkid. We risk losing like her and all of this. So basically, they're just in this complete risk aversion mode. Total risk aversion. And I made 2 points to them, and this is going to kind of spill over into the more theoretical portion of this video. But I said, number one, how far are you willing to follow that line of reason? Like, let's say, for example, that because my brother is an extreme alcoholic, right? But he's a very, very responsible alcoholic, very high functioning, very morally upright alcoholic. But let's say he wasn't, like many of them are. Let's say he went into my wallet while I was sleeping on the couch and he took $300, $400 out of it. Would my mother then still make the same argument? Like, yeah, we're not going to denounce his actions. We're just going to stay out of... She would. I know for a fact she would. And as much as I hate to admit it, my father probably would too, because he's a boomer, so he's a gyno cuck. He's a happy wife, happy life guy, right? As much as I hate to admit that about my father. He's a much lesser man than I am, and so is my brother. But the other point I wanted to make about this was that in doing this, sometimes, right, in trying to remain neutral at all costs, refusing to pass judgment or to take a side or anything, to involve in any way, even as a mediator, they need to learn that ultimately that can have the same consequence that they're trying to avoid in the first place. And what I mean to say is that the whole reason they're not getting involved is because they don't want to offend somebody who will cut ties or burn bridges with them. So they would rather just not even say anything and just literally bury their head. But sometimes burying your head is taking a side. It is taking a side. Like the fact that I don't understand what I did to my brother to make him treat me so fucking bad that I slept in the car in his driveway half the fucking nights that I was there. I was treated like this fucking scum of the earth. I was treated how you'd expect somebody that got drunk and hit a school bus full of kids and killed a bunch of people. That's how I was treated by my brother, by my wife. Like a straight up fucking villain. Treated like a bad guy. A real one. I'm not fucking perfect. You guys know I am a piece of shit, but I'm not that kind of a piece of shit to be treated like that. They treat me like I scam old people out of their fucking pensions for a living or something like that. That's how they look at me. That there's the disdain on my brother's face. I'll never forget it. Till the day they throw dirt on my fucking casket. I will never forget the look in his eye when he walked by me and just a scowl. Like, there is no bigger piece of shit on this side of hell than me. That's what his eyes told me. And it's like, you know what? Fuck you, man. And my parents don't get involved. I just wanted an explanation. Why did I deserve such a foul treatment from my brother? Who goaded me to stay with him under the pretense that I was going to be getting like a fresh start in this, like it was like this charitable thing. Like he was going to, I'm going to move out of Ontario, move out of the belly of the beast and, Zog epicenter, and I'm going to move out to a more rural part of the country and I'm going to get a fresh start. I'm going to get, it was this like very charitable intent. And then as soon as I got there, it was just the beers came out and the fucking abuse started right away. And either I want an explanation, a different narrative of what happened, because I'm willing to be wrong. I see the world through my own eyes. Maybe I'm more hard to deal with than I realize. Maybe I'm more annoying. Maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I pissed on the seat or I don't know. Like, I'm open to hear it, but it never came. The explanation never came, and I felt I was owed it. And my parents, it's weird that they never said anything. They just basically were like, well, you guys didn't see eye to eye. Really? Really? So the whole thing of them not getting involved, as it was explained to me by my father, was that they didn't want to sever the bridge. But I'm like, you know what? Let's say the economic circumstance was different. Let's say I wasn't forced to rely on living under their roof because I can't get a fucking full-time job because they don't exist anymore for white men. The relationship would become a lot more voluntary and effortful to maintain. And at that point, maybe I would have just severed the tie. I would have just said, you know what? My mom's silence is violence, right? Silence is violence. In some cases, there is true, differences of opinions that are not necessarily, that they are actually, both people have sort of, a differing opinion that really just comes down to just that, a difference of opinion. But there are cases where there's a clear-cut good guy and bad guy. Sorry. I'm getting hoarse. Like when you're dealing with a drug-addicted family member. Like a drug-addicted family member who's just lost his job and he's basically a nail looking for he's a hammer looking for a fucking nail, and I'm that nail. Clear case of where, the mother's duty is to basically step in and say, hey, listen, why are you doing that to your brother? And if you don't really have a fucking reason, then fucking knock off. My brother doesn't live with us, but he's reliant on them too in many ways that they could leverage against him, but they never ever would. And this whole thing about fence sitting, I think it's the highest form of treason. And in these old, like the old actual religions of like our ancestors, these kind of Aryan and pagan religions, they always stressed that the worst thing you could ever be was a fence sitter or a do-nothing. I always think of this line in the Bhagavad Gita where it says, O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and detain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up and fight with determination. And I try to always bring that up because it's like perfectly encapsulates the philosophy I would like to live by, what I view as honorable, and what I find most contemptible is indecisiveness, fence sitting, and inaction. This is the whole like victory or Valhalla, right? You get up and you fight with determination. And if you're fighting for what you believe in and you're determined about it, you fight with heart, then you can't lose. It's impossible to lose, right? Either you go to heaven, which is reserved specifically for people who fought, with honor, warriors, people who died for what they believed in, or else you win and you inherit all the spoils. But what does the guy get who does neither? The guy who kind of sits on his haunches and says, well, I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I'm not going to step in and do what's right because, somebody might get mad and not want to be my friend anymore. And that's proof positive when somebody's telling you that we live under a gynocracy, because all they value at that point is social harmony. That's it. Not rustling feathers, not rocking the boat, not creating any kind of waves. They don't value truth and falsity. They don't value right and wrong. They just value maintaining relations. But if the relations aren't underpinned by ethics, I don't see the utility in retaining them. If they're not undergirded by shared ethical norms and ethical values, ethical goals, moral obligations and expectations, then what even are they worth? It's just a bunch of dumb people who are scared to be alone and they don't give a fuck about anything. And another example from philosophy of this, it kind of like is the hallmark of existentialism, especially absurdism and the views of thinkers like Soren Kierkegaard, where the argument simply runs thus, that you're born in the world, right? Seemingly, I didn't really consent to being born. I didn't really decide to be born before I was born. I was sort of just found myself in the world, like I was thrown into it. And part of being alive is necessarily that you have to make decisions. You have to constantly make choices. Life comes at you. And unfortunately, there is no neutral ground. There is no inaction. It's not even an option. It's not even coherent, because As soon as you become aware of a dilemma or an ultimatum or a consideration, to not act is itself making a positive decision. You don't escape from this. And the reason why it's absurd is because you don't know, you can't know in advance the consequences or the outcomes or the ramifications of what your decisions will result in. But you must make them. You cannot not make a decision. To not make a decision is your decision that you've made. And it may result very much in resentment, which was the very thing that you thought you were going to avoid by just not getting involved and not speaking up or speaking out. Or, my mom kept saying, we don't know everything that went on with you and your brother. You don't want to know everything, I said. And she said, yeah, you're right, I don't. I said, all right, well, have fun living in your lie. Like, if that works for you, that's fine, but I don't want to live like that. And if you want to live like that, do it without me. You know what I mean? I'll rather sleep under a ditch. I'll rather get in my car and drive it down to the Navy Yard. If you guys don't, nobody gives a fuck about me, right? And so even just now, I get in a whole big thing with my girlfriend, apparently soon to be wife, when the paperwork comes back. And it's like, it just became very obvious. She starts telling me about basically what a deadbeat I am, which was the same tree that my brother was barking up with me. I just wasn't successful enough as a normie. She's saying, Filipinos work 4 jobs and you work, 3 hours here, 3 hours there, and you complain, my back. And she always says, talk to your people, which means like YouTube, basically, and like people that I would talk to on Telegram. Basically, she doesn't want me to have any outlet. Anything that would kind of like let me come on and make meta critiques about normiedom, she wants that taken away from me. If I don't forfeit it over and give it up, she'll always bring it up in any dispute. I'm not your people. Go talk to your people. Go talk to your friends online. Go talk to, like, they want you to just be immersed 24 hours a day, 365 in fucking normiedom. And she starts, bad-mouthing me in front of my baby. She's saying, oh, don't ever grow up to be like this and stuff. Very evil. Very, very evil stuff. And I realized at that moment that I'll never have any say in my child's life. And I was deluded to ever even entertain the idea that I might even have some kind of a sway or say or anything over this. It was very obvious that I won't. All I can really say is that I have passed my genetic material, and I mostly believe in heritability of behavior and ideas and things like that. I believe in nature more than nurture. Although I do strongly believe in the power of epidysgenics to kind of override or underwrite your nature. So it's going to be a tough uphill battle. But I'm not going to have any say. When it comes down to it, I don't have any say in my child's life whatsoever, and I never will. So I better just get with the fucking program right now. Get the idea out of my head that my job is anything more than just what I've already done, is just to pass the genetic material and then basically walk away from the table. It's not that I don't want to stay at the table, but I'm being asked to leave. I'm being told, you don't need to be here. We don't need you. We don't need men anymore. This isn't, your grandpa's fucking era. We don't need men anymore. I'll go to work. You stay home and talk to your people, and I'll sleep with the baby, and you know how evil these people are, right? I'm going to tell you how fucking evil evil my family is, evil how women are. When my child was just born, right? The first month is very difficult. Very difficult. And my parents had also gone on a vacation for a month. Lucky them, I know. Went on a vacation for a whole month, 2 weeks after my child was born. And so it was just the two of us. Now, my wife doesn't work and I work. And so I go out and I don't have any friends. I don't have any social life save for what I do online, appearing on the odd stream here and there or making these. Pretty much at home reading my book or I'm fucking at work, right? Now, my neighbor asked me to come over to his garage and that he'd be ordering a UFC fight. To come over and watch it in the garage. Not even in his house or anything. In the garage with the garage door open. He had like a TV, like a man cave set up out there. And we went and watched the Dricus Duplessis fight against Khamzat Chimaev. Like, when that was, it'll date it. And I had told my girlfriend something. Okay, I'm going to rewind this a little bit. Now, I don't know why, but when my child was first born, I had this recurring dream, a nightmare, that I would be like sleeping in the morning pretty much, and she would come into my room with the baby and she would say, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, right? I'm going to go take a shower or whatever. I'm going to go cook and I'm going to leave the baby here on the bed, just like with you, right? And I would say, yeah, okay, I'm getting up now. And I would fall back asleep. And then I would remember that happened and I would realize that I had fallen asleep and I would wake up in a very confused panic as if, the baby was like buried somewhere in the bed or I had like rollen over on it and crushed it. And I would wake up literally throwing pillows and blankets, ripping the bedspread in the air for about 5 to 10 seconds like a fucking animal before I realized that it was a false awakening and it was just a dream and that, the baby's safe and sound somewhere in the house. I had this 3 times. Not sure why, but I did. And I brought it up to my girlfriend and I said, the one thing I just ask you is not to sleep with the baby in the bed with you. Just put it in a bassinet or put it in the crib or I'll come there and I'll take over if you're that fucking tired. But whatever you do, just do not do that one thing. And so I go over across the street and I'm watching this UFC fight. And I told her I'd be there. You could literally look out the window of my house and see the garage across the street. Like you could see me by looking out the window. I was not gone. It's not like I went to a fucking nightclub or whatever, right? Went out on the town. I was within eye shot. And, the card ended and I stayed and talked to him a little bit, for maybe an extra 2 hours. I don't have friends. I haven't talked to this neighbor in like a good year. We were catching up. We were talking, ironically, about a lot of this stuff that I talked to you guys about. We were talking about my brother, who he knows, and about what transpired between us and all of this. And I come home and I come down and I find them sleeping in a little bed together on the twin size mattress. And I scolded her. I said, what did I say about that? Told you not to do that. And she fucking loses it on me. She's like, it's your fault. You're not here. I'm fucking tired. Blah, 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 blah. I missed a phone call from her because I never have my phone. Like my phone's always on silent. Missed a phone call from her, right? Basically, I tried to call you, whatever. So I just did it. She just did it anyway. And I'm like, um, I lost my mind. I'm not going to lie. I told her, if anything happens after I told you not to, I'm pretty much going to do something to you that I wouldn't say on YouTube. So that's that. Like, I've said what I've said. Just like, please don't do that one thing. She also, they would want to sleep in my basement all the time. And we made them. My father and I painted a whole room upstairs as a nursery. We went out and bought a crib. We bought a rocking chair. We bought a change table. We bought a fucking diaper station. There's a king size fucking mattress in there. We slugged it up this narrow fucking hallway. The thing was worth $1,600. Fucking best mattress I've ever fucking seen. It was like the best nursery room ever for like her and the baby. And she wouldn't go up there. She wanted to keep sleeping in the fucking basement. And I says, listen, you have to move up there. This basement only has one way in and one way out. And it's a fucking rickety wooden staircase. It's completely underground. There are no windows. If anything were to be a fire down here, you would not be able to escape. There's no way to escape. You're not supposed to be living down here. It's not a fucking dormitory. Just please go up there. And she just kept not doing it and not doing it and not doing it and not doing it. And not only will she ignore these small requests, but if I step out of line at all, let's say I want to get on like a live stream with somebody on YouTube and I stay up too late when she needed me or something like that, she will move down to the basement and would sleep in the bed with the baby just to spite me, just because she knows that I'm uncomfortable with it because it's dangerous and unsafe. That's my punishment for not being there at her beck and call. And so she says just now, basically I'm a deadbeat. I don't do anything as a dad. I'm just a loser, period. I'm a loser at work. She worked with me one time. She got me a job during COVID and with all these chinks, all these fucking chinks who would sit there and basically make fun of me in Mandarin all day. And it was very obvious that they were doing it. But I would ask them, like, what did you say about me? And they would, nothing. We just talking. It's very clear. They were fucking bullying me to the point where I told the guy a few times, basically like, dude, I'm almost done putting up with this. Like, we're gonna fucking go outside. You're obviously, I can't prove it, obviously, but you're talking fucking shit, dude, and like, you better shut the fuck up. But, I didn't work very much for these people. I didn't put a good effort in. I just sat around all lazy and stuff. And she always held that against me, She says, I worked with you. You're lazy. You don't work hard. I could earn more money than you. I don't really need you. All of this, right? I told her I didn't want to be there. That's why I wasn't really working hard. And she said, oh, well, why did you come then? Because I fucking cared about you. Or maybe not. Maybe that's too virtuous. Maybe I just was scared to be alone. Maybe that's the reality of it. I thought that as an excess male in the degrowth economy, I've rolled the dice on Facebook dating every day for fucking years. I know that my SMV is abysmal. I know it's through the fucking floor, super low. Can't even get dates with fucking 45-year-olds. Can't even get dates with single moms. Maybe I was just so desperate. I just didn't want to be alone. Maybe I followed you. Like, I gave up my pride. I gave up my dignity. People on here will make fun of me. Like, people will go and they'll go to the comment sections. Not on my videos, but they'll go other places and they'll make fun of me for this. But they're no better. They're just hiding their experiences. They're just hiding the fact that If they tried at all, they would have ended up with the same type of stories that I have. The only reason that they feel better than me is because, number one, they don't post their L's. They're scared to. And number two, they don't put themselves out there to take L's. None of us are scoring any goals. I'm the only one taking shots, though. I'm the only one trying to put up a shot. Everyone else is, their score is 0 as well. But they just think it's funny that I'm actually putting myself out there. Maybe it is, right? Maybe I should have necked up when I saw what the future had in store for me. Maybe I still should. Maybe I still will. My family isn't a family. I don't have any friends. Most of my audience, I don't even relate to the people that listen to these. Most of them are spiteful. Most of them are disingenuous. Even amongst the ones who aren't, most of them are stupid. They're lazy. They don't understand what I'm saying. It's just like, the myth of neutrality. And it's like, I've called out other YouTubers recently for the same thing. Like, they just remind me of my mother. That basically just, yep, I hear you. Yep. Yeah, no, it makes sense. Yep. And they're just conflict avoidant. They think that by being conflict avoidant, somehow everything's just going to patch itself up, and they're not going to disenfranchise anyone. They're not going to burn any bridges, but I'm not okay with that. You see what happens. You see what's happening. You see what's transpired. What is your take on it? What's your opinion on it? Give us your assessment. Otherwise, you're a fake fuck. And I don't need people like that, especially in the fucking sanctity of my home. I mean, I would rather, I don't know. Life's just taking me where it takes me, and I'm allowing it to. And I'm really thinking about it these days, Nobody recognizes me as I want or wish to be recognized. I'm always viewed as an inept, failed normie that came up short. All of my passions, all of my skills and my hobbies and my talents are all seen as basically just stupid things that I'm using to circumvent normiedom, which is actually the only respectable thing. Quote unquote adulthood, gainful employment. What are you playing all these musical instruments for? It's time to grow up, bucko. It's time to get some gainful employment. Nobody needs me, and I'm pretty much like a charity case. I'm like a pity case for my family. They don't respect me at all. I can't even ask them to do one simple thing. Not only that, if I do ask them not to do something, they will do it more because they don't like me. And they just don't have the heart to tell me to fuck off. They won't truly abandon me. So I'm just basically clamoring to exist. And I always bring up this quote from Nietzsche, and I think I'm just going to end this video on it. One should die proudly when it is not possible to live proudly anymore. Death freely chosen, death at the right time, brightly and cheerfully accomplished amidst children and witnesses, when a real farewell is still possible, as the one who is taking leave is still there. And it is also a real estimate of what one has wished, drawing the sum of one's life, in all opposition to the wretched and revolting comedy that Christianity has made of the hour of death. Dismal days indeed.